Good morning. Today we have a very special guest on Global View, a TV anchor, a journalist, a winning award journalist. I want to deep dive into your career as a journalist first, but everybody knows him, I believe, for your very successful radio show, Joe Pags Show. Hi, Joe Pags, and welcome to Global View.
Love being on Global View. Simona, George, it's so great to see you, my friends. Thank you for having me on today.
Thanks for joining. So, Joe, tell us about your career. I know you've been an anchor in the United States and you have won prizes for your journalism in a time where journalism ethics and integrity is so much questioned for obvious reason. How did you see evolve journalists from the time you were hitting the news to now?
But it's interesting because journalism seems to be out the window. It's so different than what it was when I was in the newsroom. I left the TV newsroom in 2005 to go back to do full-time radio. Although I do television as well, as you know, and I wanted to make sure I could have an opinion because as a journalist, you don't have an opinion. You just go there and keep a journal. I know that you speak French. The word jour means day. So you go out and you keep a record of the day, you write it down, and then you deliver it to whoever the audience is. That's not what's happening now. In fact, we just found out, and you both know this, that USAID was giving $8 million to Politico. Why would the government ever give any money to somebody who calls themselves a journalist when the job is just to observe and smell and see and touch and then report what it is that you went and observed? So that means that now Politico, that claims to be a journalist, is incumbent, it's complicit with the U.S. government to do what they want, make them look good, make the other side look bad. So when I was in the newsroom, we would fight about it. How are we going to report this story? How are we going to make sure that people get the true story? When I hit the airwaves in New York, in Albany, New York, in my last anchor job, I was the 6 and 11 o'clock news anchor at the CBS affiliate Monday through Friday. I got an email the first night from a guy who was angry because he said, "Great, another liberal on my TV." Now, you both know me pretty well. I'm the furthest thing from liberal you're ever going to see. But it was so even-handed that the guy thought that I was leaning left when I wasn't. I was just telling him the truth. I don't think we have that anymore, and I hope that we can fix that. Slowly but surely through shows like yours, which is amazing, I think we're going to fix that by telling the truth.
Thank you, Joe. And you had a very important point, being objective in reporting facts and not delivering simply opinions. And in this case of USAID, being paid for shaping a certain narrative, which is straight criminal liability, I believe, first and foremost. So very happy Trump finally put an end to this trend. And what do you think about the future of journalism?
Well, it's not just USAID, which again, you're right. They were paying for good reporting. Look at 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes is who we used to rely on in the United States. In fact, outside of the United States, and you know this because you both travel the world, 60 Minutes is looked at as the preeminent news outlet, program, organization, whatever. It's not. They had a 50 or 55-minute sit down with the then vice president, the nominee for the Democrats, and completely edited it to make her look good. They edited the whole thing to make her look like she was snappy and smart and gave direct answers when you and I both know that she gives word salad answers. So how do you get it back? I think you get it back by doing shows like yours, by doing shows like mine. Huge podcasters aren't incumbent. They aren't reliant, I should say, upon anybody in the corporate world. You sit down, you do what you two are doing, you press a button, you record good content, and if people like it, they'll come back and watch it again. That's how we beat it. I have nobody telling me what to say. You have nobody telling you what to say. That's the way it should be because the audience should think and should know, should feel absolutely confident that what they're getting is organic. We're going to have sponsors. My sponsors never tell me what to say. If they try to tell me what to say, they're no longer my sponsor. I get rid of them. So it's about giving true information in an entertaining way, in an educational way, and in a way where people want to come back and say, I've got to see George and Simona again. That was so good, I can't not see it next time. Holy mackerel. Tell the husband, tell the wife, tell the neighbors, tell the coworkers, you've got to see this show because I got something that was true from them.
No, Joe, that's a great point, and shows like yours, and actually, what we're trying to do is just present the truth with real experts, and without filter and without fake narratives. So, my question really kind of feeds off of what you just said about this narrative creation. I posted on my X account this week, going back into the '70s from the church committee hearings, where back then there was the fear of the media being infiltrated and just basically pulling the wool over the American people's eyes with fake information, just keeping people in an echo chamber with dissemination of just fake news, if,
Yeah.
as President Trump likes to call it. So the question I have is, how did media get hijacked, and why did it continue to be hijacked up until social media and decentralized media basically took over? How did we allow this to happen, or how did they allow it to happen?
Well, it's a great question. I think it's a collusion between big bucks
Mm-hmm.
and deep state. Big
Mm-hmm.
bucks and the sponsors, whether it's big pharma or fill in the blank, whoever it happens to be, they have an alternative motive. They're going to say, "I'll give you $1 million, or $2 million, or $5 million to sponsor that football game or whatever it is. Make sure you don't say anything bad against big pharma. Make sure you don't say anything bad against big widgets, whatever the sponsor happens to be." And then you've got the CIA and potentially the FBI, and we're going to find out more about this as Pam Bondi gets going.
Mm-hmm.
They decided, hey, if we get in there and we give them a few $1 million, or if we get in there and tell them, hey, I'm going to leak this, just don't use me as a source. Look at how they took down Richard Nixon. This goes back to the 1970s. Deep Throat was the #2 guy at the FBI. He kept on leaking information to two doofuses over at the Washington Post, who all of a sudden were the greatest journalists on earth. They weren't great journalists. They answered the phone that day. Some would say Woodward and Bernstein actually were connected to the deep state. I don't know that to be true. But what they did was they took down a president who was a very good president who made maybe one mistake by saying something stupid in the Oval Office. At the end of the day, they needed him out of the way. He was doing good work. He was making a friend out of China. He was spreading freedom and liberty globally, and they were going to lose. They were going to lose their control in the deep state. So the deep state took down Richard Nixon and said, "Wow, that was unbelievably successful. Let's do that more." And they were able to until cable news started to show up. Remember, it was just big three. ABC, NBC, and CBS. They owned the airwaves. Walter Cronkite had 30 million viewers a night, if you could imagine that. Now you've got a plethora, 500, 600 different outlets that they really can't control all of them. But they were complicit. We could just go back to Trump the first time. When he would walk out, you'd have people like Jim Acosta and others yelling and screaming and questioning and not giving up the microphone and treating him like garbage. The same exact reporters did what with Biden? They asked, what flavor ice cream is it today, sir? Vanilla. That was the journalism that we saw. It became clear, and I don't know who was paying them. I don't know why exactly it was. I don't have the receipts. But trust me when I say they were in cahoots with the big state or the deep state to lift up Biden and absolutely get anybody else who would get in the way. And it wasn't Biden anyway. It was Obama's third term. We all know that, I think. But we now see, George, it's a great question. I think it goes back way far back, maybe to the 1920s and 30s. Mm-hmm. They figured if they could control the message, they can control the people.
And it's pretty disturbing. We have seen a collusion between media outlet and the brutal lawfare that
Yes.
brought many people under the judicial scrutiny based on fake headlines. We have seen stories that have been censored, like Hunter's Biden laptop, right? Mm-hmm. We have seen now finally President Trump firing all these 51 intelligence agents corruptly hid this story. But what is the real force driving this machine? We have this brutal system that from a side create headlines. They're paid USAID funding fake headlines. On the other side, the corrupted judges that start political persecutions more than prosecutions. How we can hold this system accountable? How can we drain the swamp at the deepest level and make sure that the trend started by President Trump will be successfully completed even after this term?
Well, I think that we've already started doing it in the first, almost 3 weeks of the Trump second presidency, Trump 2.0. He doesn't seem to care. He doesn't care who gives him a hard time, who criticizes him, who calls him out, who calls him Nazi. That doesn't matter anymore. The guy got shot, and he's like, I don't care anymore. So he's going to use proper prosecutorial methods. You go after people who actually broke the law. A lot of people broke the law. The FBI should never have raided Mar-a-Lago. Jack Smith should never have been illegally appointed. Jack Smith should never have brought a case. He's going to go through and say, this was illegal. Here's why it was illegal. This is why they're going to be held to account. It's interesting because as we watch it evolve, I kind of want the media to continue doing what it's doing. And let me explain what I mean. Right now, they're reporting that going after USAID is bad. And then you've got members of Congress out there shouting and screaming about how horrible it is. They're going after your Social Security, your Medicare, your Medicaid, your food stamps, none of which is true. I want them to keep on doing that because regular Americans, learning from people like you two and hopefully from me, they know the truth is $40 billion is being spent out of one agency to go and affect nation change and regime change and to promote DEI and LGBTQXYZ stuff. People don't want USAID to spend their money when Western North Carolina doesn't have a place to live, when Southern California has fires burning down the entire area. People are awake. So I want the left to keep on being as loony as they are. The president calls them lunatics. He's right. I want them to keep on doing this because they're so in the clouds, they think they're right. And every single time they do it, it's more people going from the middle left to the middle right and then coming to our side completely going, hey, listen, Tulsi Gabbard did it. RFK Jr. did it. Fetterman every once in a while does it. Maybe I should take a look at that side too. Maybe I've been lied to the entire time. So it's a balance. I wonder what you two think, because you've been attacked mercilessly, both of you, for years and years and years now from the fake news. But people now understand that you're really good people and you're really good Americans and you've been telling the truth the whole time. Are you with me? Do you want them to continue? I hope the left continues being as stupid as they are because it makes it easier for us.
Well, what do you think? I think the first person victim of the fake news are here.
Yes.
And also, I believe that, yes, I want the media being stupid, but I want the people being smart. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. Yes, I think people are waking up. That's what I mean. I don't want the left and the media and the deep state to change. I want them to keep on doing what they're doing because they stepped over the line. They went too far. When you shoot the guy and when you raid his place and when you try to take all of his money and his properties in New York, when you put a guy through what they put him through, and again, what they put you two through, which is disgusting, eventually the people say, well, wait a second, that isn't okay. That's not all right. And I want them to keep doing it. I don't want them to get smart. I want them to keep on being lunatics.
Well, that's a really good point. But, there is now another addition to this battle that finally Donald Trump embraced so aggressively, and this DOGE. I mean, now we are holding accountable all the agencies that have been overspending for purposes that have to finally be transparent about. Talking about USAID, we have seen how much money only Chelsea Clinton has been pocketing for her own personal expenses. So let's establish a formal audit of how these funds have been misappropriated also for personal reasons, because it's important to understand that this is public tax paying their taxes of American hard workers that goes time to Ukraine, and then we find out they're going to fuel the wedding expenses for Chelsea Clinton and all the villa and the properties. I mean, people should be outraged when you said we have issues in California, we have a homeless, we have an electric system that is causing, maintenance issues, so that caused the fires on the side. Yesterday were a shortage of energy all day. I mean, this should not be happening in America.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And again, let's break down the argument. Again, just coming from a journalist, right? When you look at the story, what is the story? We've got an agency in the United States government that has given $38 to $40 billion a year, an agency that literally told the Secretary of State, I don't answer to you. They said, we have no accountability. Nobody can tell us what to and what not to spend. We're going to do it whether you like it or not. Now, if you're just being an even-handed journalist, you report that, and then you report one side says, leave them alone, let them spend all the money they want, shut your mouth, and do what we say. The other side says, hey, we'd like to know where the money is being spent, how you're spending, and who you answer to. Now, again, if you're just a regular American person who's out there working at 2 jobs to try to make ends meet, picking up the kids at soccer practice or making dinner or maybe digging a ditch in the backyard, when you hear those two sides in an even-handed way, which side are you going to be on? Of course you want accountability. Of course you want to know where your money's going. Of course you think they're lunatics who just want us to shut up and get in line. The problem is, for all these years, all these decades, we've had only that side told. Hey, they're taking away food stamps and Social Security, and they want people to die in Africa. Did you see the latest argument from the left? If we take away the USAID funding, 6 million people will die of AIDS in Africa. What? Shut up. We have the truth over here, which is you had 10,000 employees that weren't accountable to anybody, were not answerable to anybody, and Marco Rubio just said it's going to be 294 employees. We'll fire about 9,500. I like this side. But again, if you present it evenly And you both do this every single time. You always tell the truth. You present it even-handedly and say, okay, consumer, what do you think? Which side are you on now that you have both sides? I'll give you a quick example. On TikTok, I've got a really big following for some reason. I started it in June of 2023. It's a Chinese-based app that the CCP has access to all of our data, but for some reason, I've got over 800,000 followers. And I ask myself, why is this happening? Because I'm just telling the truth. And I'm telling the truth, but you have to edit yourself. On TikTok, you can't say gun. You guys won't believe this. You have to say pew pew. I'm serious. You can't say the word gun. You can't say killed. You have to say unalived. Seriously, you can't say rape. You have to say grape. I'm not kidding. But if you learn how to circumvent those filters and those censors, you can tell the truth. I posted a video called Tariffs 101 just a few days ago, right when all the tariff stuff was going on. 1.2 million views because people had no idea what a tariff was. Why didn't they know what a tariff was? Because the media lied. Tariffs are bad and will make costs go up. Trump is bad. I just told the truth. Here's what a tariff does. It's a leverage play. And the next day, Canada and Mexico gave in. They hunger, they thirst for real information that they haven't gotten forever. It's easy to indoctrinate if you don't tell both sides, you know?
No, absolutely, Joe. And it goes really back to, I remember the fake narrative about why fuel prices were so high, why eggs
Yes.
were so high, why inflation was at almost 10% under Biden, because it was all Putin's fault. People don't, I mean, do you remember that? It's always
Yeah.
somebody else's fault. It's never big government's fault. It's not profligate spending's fault. It's not an open border. It's not destroying America's energy export capabilities that created inflation. It's always somebody else's fault. It's never the Biden administration's fault. It's never the Democrats' fault. So going back really quickly to this gross spending and this, I guess, shadow government of
Yes.
USAID and some of these other programs, USAID is around 1% of the federal budget, I think even less than that. And look what's
Right.
been uncovered in just over a week. I mean, we're talking about not only censorship regimes abroad, but also using those same tactics to censor and to suppress critical information for the American consumer, conduct regime changes abroad, and to try to usurp and replace traditional values both
Right.
abroad and domestically. So the question I have is, what do you think we're going to find regarding waste, corruption in some of these other agencies moving forward, and which of them should be the priority to be targeted?
Perfect question. On the air yesterday, I asked my daughter, Sam, who's my executive producer on the air, Sam, find out how many agencies there are in the
Mm-hmm.
federal government. And I think, I'm willing to be wrong about this, I think the number she gave me was 2,000. Guys, imagine that. One agency,
Oh,
38 to 40 billion.
Crazy.
2,000 agencies that you've got to go through now with a fine-tooth comb. I think Trump thought he would find 50 or $100 billion in waste. Already, Elon Musk has said it's more like 750 billion. It might be over a trillion. And if you really do find that much waste and cut it back, you're going to have the American economy go nuts, and our taxes are going to go down. Jobs are going to flourish. People are going to flood into the market. But to go back to what you said about them blaming everything on Putin invading Ukraine, the gas prices went up as soon as Biden won that election. They went up that day. Putin didn't invade for a long time after that. Everything went up because the supply chain didn't work, because Buttigieg was at home on paternity leave because they just adopted some twins, he and his husband. So we had a government that wasn't working for the people. We had a government that was looking to, I believe, explode the economy. And if you do that through something called Cloward and Piven, which we can talk about next time, if you do that, that makes every American no longer self-sufficient and self-reliant. We become reliant on the central government. I believe in this Obama's third term, which is what that was, they were
Mm-hmm.
trying to break the economy to say George and Simona can't have more than their next door neighbors. The next door neighbors can have more than Joe. That's it. It's not going to work. Everybody's got to have the same shirt, the same car, the same house, the same money, the same income. And if you want your necessities, you ask me, the God of all of it, government. I think that's what they tried to do. But they could only pull that off if they lied enough to pull it off. The economy was bad because Trump did this. The economy was bad because Putin did that. Inflation is up because those mean Republicans won't let us get our Inflation Reduction Act through, which they ended up pushing through. That was just green energy. So great point. They lie with such ease. That's one of my favorite phrases. They lie with such ease. And unfortunately, like I said a minute ago, if you don't get both sides of it, and thank God they're getting it from you, if they don't get both sides of it, they're never going to know the truth. I'll give you one quick example that I think that you probably have heard before, but I want to reiterate it.
Mm-hmm.
A guy from Campus Reform, it's a group of college campus kids who actually go out and do real journalism, asked a college student, do you believe in socialism? The student said, hell yeah, we need socialism. And the guy said, okay, what kind of grades do you get? So I'm getting all A's, man. I'm working my ass off. So, okay, great. You've got all A's. This guy's getting all F's. Why don't we give you both a C? And the guy stopped and he went, well, wait, that's not fair. I worked for that A. Right. Exactly right. You're not a socialist. You just think you are. You were told that you should be. You were told that it's good. But when it comes down to taking away your hard work, your meritocracy, your exceptionalism, suddenly you're not down, are you? Wow. I didn't think about that. I better educate myself. If we give both sides of a story, or even 3 or 4 sides of a story, and give people the opportunity to figure it out, they'll know that Biden broke the economy on purpose. And it wasn't him. He was eating ice cream. Obama, broke the economy on purpose. They wanted to blame somebody other than themselves. What we know is numbers don't lie. As soon as Trump won, what happened? Prices started going down. Manufacturers started saying, hey, I think we'll move back to the United States. And we can now expose everything they were doing to harm the economy to, again, I believe, this is my opinion now, not journalism. I believe they were doing it to break the economy, to make all of us reliant on central government.
Joe, and just to follow up really quickly on what you just said, so many millions of Americans were asking the very simple question, was this incompetence or intentional? And I, based on what you just said and what I've always assumed, it looked completely intentional. I mean, Trump, within 10 days of ascending to the Oval Office with a series of executive orders, sending our troops to the southern border, imposing tariffs to rebalance our economy, deregulating the economy, cutting taxes. This is in over 10 days.
Yeah.
So obviously, the Democrats weren't simply incompetent. They were intentionally trying to dismantle and replace our country's economy and values and traditions with something completely foreign and alien. And I think that's why the American people resoundingly rejected that, resoundingly rejected Obama's 4th term at this point. If it was if it would have been Harris, and we're going back to what made America great from its inception. So thanks.
Well, you're absolutely right. What they wanted was like a European Union. They wanted a North American Union, I believe. Maybe even just the Americas Union. And here's what I mean. Hillary Clinton was on record while she was running, or right before she ran in 2016. She was on record saying there shouldn't be a border on the south of the United States. It should be an open border, open trade between Canada, United States, and Mexico, and not the USMCA, and not NAFTA, where we keep our sovereignty. Literally a North American Union, because then the globalists would have more say. The WHO would have more say. United Nations would have more say. The WEF would have more say. This is exactly what they wanted. This wasn't a mistake. Of course, Joe Biden was incompetent. But you had Anthony Blinken running it. You had Jake Sullivan running it. You had Barack Obama running it. Maybe Valerie Jarrett was running it. Maybe the Clintons had a say. These people were sitting at the cabal, at that table, and they were trying to set us up to where we no longer were exceptional. And the way you do that is you open the border and act like you can't close it, or act like it's not open. How about this one from Mayorkas the entire time? The border's secure. No, it's not. Trump, through the executive actions that you mentioned, George, on day one, reduced the flow by 93%. That was easy. You do it very easily. The problem is it's not codified in law. We're going to have to get it away from executive action and make it law. But I truly believe this, and you two know way more about the European Union than I do. To me, they wanted to replicate that here. And if they could replicate that here, that means that one world government in Davos can tell us how to live. The WHO, they literally under Biden said, sure, you can tell us how we can do our health care in America. Of course, what did Trump do? We're leaving the WHO. Do you agree that they tried to model a North American Union after the European Union? That's what I think happened.
Yes, and talking about that, Joe, you've been recently guest of an Italian show,
yes,
precisely discussing this topic. And I would like to, since this show is directed also to global audience, my Italian audience, I would like you to explain to Europeans back then, which is the leading role of the United States in setting the trends, and these trends now have changed. We have seen that Joe Biden's America is not Donald Trump America. So how the Italian government should position itself right now toward policies like immigration, foreign policies in war like Ukraine, Russia, but also the situation with Gaza. Which is your, what you would like to tell and share a global audience as an American that has knowledge about the world, about these policies?
Exactly. First of all, thank you for having me on that show. You helped to make that happen. You actually made that happen. Oh. I was surprised after we did that so many people in the comments on YouTube were so completely confused about Trump and about Harris. And one person said Trump and Biden both fascists. What? Another person said Trump is going to ruin the country and expel anybody who doesn't look like him. I was like, what are you talking about? But what was really brought to bear on that, and thank you again for having me on there. What was brought to bear is that they don't know anything about us governmentally. I don't think they do. I think they do, and they take whatever RAI or the big media in Italian tells them to think. The guy that I was on with, who was great, he is not that establishment media, and we were able to actually have a conversation. But what I want to say to the world is, see what Trump is already doing. You're going to flourish more because of Trump. You're going to now have that LNG deal from us and not from Russia, the guy that you're afraid of. You're going to now have more freedom and liberty because somebody like Maloney has to now pivot and say, I'm not just going to say I'm against illegal immigration. I'm not just going to say I'm going to stop the flow to Lampedusa. I'm not just going to say that Northern Africa shouldn't send us everybody on boats. I'm going to literally stop the flow now. I can stop the flow because the big guy on the globe, Trump or the United States, is going to back me. I don't think she thought she was backed. We can talk specifically about Gaza and Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran. They did that stuff because they knew that Biden and Obama would straddle the line. They would say something stupid like, we need a two-state solution, or something stupid like, Israel should defend itself, but the Palestinians should have their own control of their own destiny. When you say things like that, you tell the bad actors of the world that we don't have the strong backbone anymore, and you tell the good people of the world to shut up and hide. So with Trump, there's no more shutting up and hiding. With Trump, it's not only is it no two-state solution, screw it, I'm going to take Gaza. What? Now, I don't know if you guys saw that coming. I didn't see that coming. That was not on my bingo card, that Donald Trump would walk out with Benjamin Netanyahu and say, we're going to take control of Gaza. We're going to develop it and maybe call it the Gaza Riviera. And it's going to be the most beautiful thing on the planet. Stop me. Go ahead and try. So we're now in a place to where Maloney, who I think is generally speaking a good leader, but she also gives into the political winds, I think. She now can say, I can do that. And I can dig in because Trump has my back. Remember, and I think I mentioned this on Italian TV, when Maloney visited Biden, Biden was trying to stay awake. It was like she was his nurse. When Maloney visited Trump and Elon Musk, it was, well, everybody's all smiles and high fives and who's hugging who. The world now understands strength is back and the strength is on the side of the good guys. So I hope, if nothing else, Europe and Asia and everybody watching this, Australia, everybody watching this gets this. When the big guy is strong and is unafraid, and by the big guy, I mean our country led by President Trump, the big guy. But when the big actor is strong and is right, and we are right, we're the good guys, then the world can be more peaceful. I think that's what they should get from it. He's not a fascist. He's not Hitler. Stop reading the headlines and believing it.
Sorry. No, Italians should know that better, what fascist means. That's, I wanted to conclude
of course.
on this note.
Yeah, it's not that long ago they had fascists.
Yeah, exactly. So they should know better.
Yeah, no, Joe, that's a really good point, because if you look in 2016, what was going on, you had so many of these countries around the world basically controlled by socialist governments. You had leftist governments, socialist governments that were all part in tandem with the Obama administration's one world government. You had all like these TPP trade agreements. You had the Brexit issue raging. You had, of course, this hostility between NATO and Russia, you know, probably the prelude to trying to start the war that we've been living the last 3 years with Russia and Ukraine.
Right.
And Donald Trump was a victim of a concerted collusion scheme to take down a populist economic nationalist candidate and presidency, not only using our agencies, but foreign intelligence agencies. This has been widely reported now. This was all over the Tucker Carlson network docuseries that we were part of, All the President's Men, the New York Post.
Which is great, by the way. Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, you have the FBI director, the prospective FBI director, Kash Patel, saying the same thing. So this is all concrete evidence. Moving forward now to the type of leaders you just mentioned. We have more right-leaning leaders like Meloni in Italy, Orban in Hungary, Milei in Argentina. How can Donald Trump mold this new group of, let's call them little Avengers, to try and reshape the world political system, the world economic system, more with conservative characteristics instead of globalist characteristics? Do you think he can do this using countries like Italy, Hungary, and Argentina, and maybe some others? Or do you think we're going to continue this intractable fight between nationalism and globalism?
Well, it's a great question. I don't think it's intractable. I think you can, in fact, cajole other countries to elect people as long as we let them know we'll support you. And I'll give you one example.
Mm-hmm.
The Islamic Republic of Iran. We have to now say the whole thing. The Islamic Republic of Iran. They had what looked like to be fair and free elections when Obama was the president. And the good guy won. They didn't let him take over. And Obama could have stepped in and empowered the people of Iran who like Western culture. They like Western civilization. They like the United States of America. And they elected their own guy. They wanted the theocracy to be gone. And Obama, instead of saying, we support you 100%, which might have buoyed the military to rise up and take out the Ayatollahs, instead he said, we're not going to meddle in the affairs and the elections of the Islamic Republic of Iran, which ended up getting 27-year-old women shot in the face in the middle of the street in Iran. So we have to have a leader, and Trump is this leader, who will not just capitulate. Because, by the way, Obama wanted globalism. You can't have globalism if you don't allow for really bad, strong-armed people and organizations to control countries. Had they had freedom and liberty in Iran, Obama could not have had the kind of control over Iran that I think he wanted. Having said all of that, what Trump can do, and he's doing it, is he can say, you can choose between success or failure. Argentina is a success. The United States is a success through loving country, through nationalism, through lower taxes, lower regulation, smaller government, and by people having freedom and liberty. Or you can be a failure like Venezuela, where they're eating their dogs in the street. Or you can be a failure like North Korea, that doesn't have enough power to turn the lights on at night. And the people are 6 inches shorter than the South Koreans because they don't have enough nutrition. You have to continually tell the story. And I think that's where we started in this conversation. If you're going to be a journalist or a storyteller or somebody who tells the truth, then people will learn from you. If we only say socialism good, socialism good, socialism good, but we never say why it's good, some dumb people will say, hey, I was told socialism is good. Let's go for that. So, George, great question. Tell people, I'll give you an example. When I was in Italy, I believe the World Cup was going on. It was 1982. I could
Time
be wrong.
to go back.
I know you guys won't have me back. But when I was there, I remember going to a shop and asking somebody for, I think it was a granita limon. I think I wanted to have a little icy or something, right?
Yeah.
And the guy said, hold on, please. I'm watching the World Cup. It's only once every 4 years. And he was rooting for Italy. That's the kind of nationalism I love.
I love
Love
it
your
too.
country. Love where you're from. Love what it's about. Love that flag. Love the system. Love your family and your neighbors. We are taught on this globe that the one side says, don't worry, we'll take care of you. You don't have to love anybody. We'll just take care of your needs. The other side says, you go do it. And the example I think that's the best is you can give somebody a fish, you eat for a day, teach them how to fish, they eat forever. Reject the fish is one of the things I say in my show all the time. Reject the fish. Don't give me a handout. Show me how I can work my ass off and better my country, better my neighborhood, better my county, better the world through independent, great countries. I think that if Millie or Millet, if he has success, that's going to go a long way. If Maloney does the right thing now and does what she said she was going to do when she ran and doesn't give in, you're going to see people say, wow, we should be more like her. Or Orban, we should be more like him. George, it's a great question. It's a very complicated question that has, I think, a very simple answer. Do you want to succeed or do you want to fail and give it to the government and let them fail for you? I think that we want to succeed. And the example of Donald Trump, who's a multi-billionaire, and Elon Musk, who's a multi-billionaire, them giving of themselves to say, we can have our good lives and fly around in private jets and ignore you, and just we can have the prime rib while you go and get the breadcrumbs. For them to say, I'm going to put all that on hold because of love of country, and I want to empower you on how you can also succeed, maybe not to the level where we are, but you can try. You can also succeed through your own independence and meritocracy. So I think that when we have more successful countries like the ones you mentioned, we're going to have more who want to be successful like that, and that's when the uprising of the people happens. I think it can happen. I think the fight is starting to switch. It's going towards our side now. For a long time, it looked really dark and dank. But I think that we're seeing these success stories. And as long as you don't have a massive failure in one of these countries that you mentioned, there's really no argument against it.
Great point, Joe.
Very great. And actually, I would like to go back to Donald Trump setting the trend of promises kept and promises delivered.
Yes.
I think this is really the line that draw the difference between a leader and an influencer of politics. We can all gain, win our race if we know how to speak. But Donald Trump, President Trump, is showing that we can implement what we promise in a space of 15 days and even less. I mean, he has done more in the first weeks of his presidency than probably many other leaders, even in conservative world abroad. But in also, there is a one point you said before, and it's like he's unafraid of doing things. They try to assassinate him. They try to physically and even morally getting rid of him through this prosecution that only very strong spirits could handle, like he did.
Yeah.
But now we are at the end. To me, it's important to sign the end of the dictatorship of the politically correct. We should learn to call things by their name. I'm tired of the pronouns. I mean, there are two genders. Yes, take it. There are legal and illegal immigrants, and illegal immigrants shouldn't get offended if we invite them to go back, because that's the rule. We want to be safe. We want to give priority to healthy values and not simply being afraid to offend this or this other category of people, because we've confined them into a very uncomfortable position. I would never like to be treated as a minority anyways. But we should embolden people to strive for success and do it not emboldening their flaws, but simply just offering the opportunity to come in legally, to just contribute to a better society. So how we sign that? Do you think we are? I see many people offended with me too from back Europe, telling me, I thought you were such a kind heart. Why you talk about having only two genders? Why you became so mean? And I said, how many genders do you think exist? I mean,
well, I think it's 56. You make a very good point. When Donald Trump ran the first time, he didn't understand how it worked. He literally said, I'm going to move the capital and our embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And then he did it. 12 other presidents said they were going to do that, but they never did it. They never had any plan to do that. He said, I'm going to do this about oil or energy. I'm going to start lowering regulations. If you want to add a regulation, you got to get rid of 4 regulations. And then he actually did it. He didn't understand that being a politician, you could lie your ass off on the campaign trail the entire time, not do anything that you said you would do, and then beg for a second term. Well, the first time he went in, I think like a CEO. He said, okay, I'm here. I'm the chairman of the board. Do what I say. He didn't realize there were 5,000 people working in the deep state against him the entire time, anonymously putting out op-eds in Washington Post and elsewhere. This time he came in and he said, I'm not only the CEO, but I'm the boss of you, and I will fire you. And I will fire you immediately. 10,000 people at USAID, you're gone. You're out of here. All of you federal workers, 60,000 are going to take the payout now. You're out of here as well. And Trump said he was going to close the border, did it. Said he's going to rejuvenate drilling and exploration, he did it. Said he was going to use tariffs to make Mexico and Canada and China do what he wanted, and he did it. The first time he wanted to keep his promises, but he had this invisible, unbelievably strong force against him. This time he sees the force. It's not invisible anymore, and he's firing the force as he goes. And he truly, I believe that he will do everything he can in the first 2-year period, because historically, a sitting president loses either the House or the Senate in the midterms. If he does everything he promised, like you said, promises made, promises kept. If he does everything that he said he would do, the American people will keep on giving him the House and the Senate. He knows that. He literally has 2 years to get this done, and he's not wasting any time. I am not surprised anymore. When he said the Gaza thing the other day, I went, that's it. The guy can't surprise me anymore. Whatever he says, I'm going to expect it now, because he doesn't care. He wants greatness in America, and he will not let that invisible force that's been in place probably for 100 years trying to take us to the progressive left, he won't let them stop him. And they tried to stop him with bullets. They tried to stop him with fraud, tried to stop him with prison. Nothing is going to stop him. So it's a great point that you bring up. Promises made, promises kept is something American presidents never thought they had to do, except Donald Trump. Not only does he think he has to do it, he's doing it.
Leading by action and by example.
Leading by, exactly. Joe, how are we going to make America First and MAGA the ideology or the ruling class in America for the next 20, 25 years instead of just the next 4 years? I think that's a very that's a question a lot of people are thinking, because when you talked about the 2016 election, the first term, and you had the deep state try to basically overthrow him,
Yes,
and he was almost on defense for so much of the first term, even though he was an incredibly successful president, best president in modern American history, in my
yes.
opinion. Um, Now he obviously has better personnel around him, people that he could trust. It looks like Congress is playing more ball with him compared to the first time around, including, confirming his nominees. Of course, we knew that Democrats were going to push back. We knew some rhinos would have some questions, but overall, it looks like the process has been very smooth. So, how are we going to make sure that not only these next 4 years are successful, but keeping this thing going and making sure that America is on a forward trajectory for the next century with America First policies?
Well, making America great was never a bad thing. Ronald Reagan said, make America great. He didn't say again, but he said, make America great. Bill Clinton, historically, it's on video, says, we're going to make America great again. Nobody thought that was a bad thing then. We have to make people, I think, who are outside the fray, George, we have to make them understand that it's not exclusive. It's not only for those of us who voted for Trump. When you make America great again, like Ben Carson, the guy you used to work for, when he was on my show not too long ago, he said, a rising tide raises all boats. That's a saying that we all know. We know that Black Americans and Hispanic Americans and women and men and whites and Hispanics and American Indians, everybody benefited from the economy of the first Trump presidency. Everybody already is starting to benefit by the moves that he's making now. I think that we just have to do really well with the messaging. This is why I'm over the moon happy that you two are doing this podcast, because I think that you are a couple of the preeminent voices and brains in this country to make sure that you bring the message out. And I'm doing my best as well. People who are watching and listening have to understand one thing. Make America great again is not white supremacy and Nazism and fascism. Make America great again includes all of America. That means everybody who's here legally, whether a citizen or a resident or whatever your status happens to be. If you're here legally, you will benefit. Donald Trump has never, ever in his life, as far as I know, made any policy or move or taken an action that is only for one race or one gender or one ideology or one orientation. It's always for everybody. I'll never forget after 9/11, he was so mad that we weren't rebuilding the Twin Towers faster than we were, to the point where he said, let me just do it because America deserves this. If we can get the message across, and again, great question, George. If we can get the message across to everybody watching and listening on any platform that making America great again includes you, then we're going to have this not only for 25 years, but maybe for all of history. But the left is so good at dividing and conquering. Obama told Hispanics, blacks don't like you, told blacks, whites don't like you, told whites, American Indians don't like you, told the Republicans that Democrats don't like you, and libertarians that communists, the divide and conquer has to be defeated. So when they do it, we have to call it out. When Trump does something that benefits all of Americans, we have to call that out. With education and knowledge, the right side, us, will win for perpetuity. Because there's no real doubt. How could you say something bad against making more money or having more freedom or having fewer regulations or having smaller government? How can you argue against that if it's an even playing field? So again, raise our voices, keep the message out there, and highlight the good things, and then also highlight when the other side is trying to take our freedoms and our liberties away. I think that's the way you do it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe.
Absolutely.
Where people can find you?
JoePags.com. The show is Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern. You can just click on Listen Now, but it's on 170 terrestrial radio stations, 5 or 6 million listeners. We're on social media everywhere. Follow us on X. I don't know why, but I have a hard time building my X page, but it's Joe Talk Show. Yeah, well, it's at 230,000. I mean, look at George, that's a million or something. But at the end of the day, the message is out there from people, good people like George and Simona. It's out there from me. Go to joepags.com. Go and follow everything that we do. We also do it in video form. So the set where I'm sitting now, I do the show from here. We, of course, have George and Simona on all the time because we're smart. We want them on to help our ratings. But at the end of the day, it's all available. It's all out there, and it's above reproach. What I love about what we do, guys, and thank you for having me on, what I love is that nobody told you what to say today. Nobody told you what to ask me. Nobody said how I should respond. And that's what people should get from something like this. We want more people to consume more information and less indoctrination, if that makes sense.
Thank you. And that's absolutely great. Also, I already follow you on TikTok. Actually enjoying your real stuff. Go make sure you follow Joe Pags on TikTok too. Thank you so much for joining our show, Global View. And we hope you have you back on. Thank you, Joe.
It's an absolute honor. Thank you, George. Thank you, Simone. I appreciate you both, my friends.
Joe, thanks so much again.